Figuring out what path I want to take in life in terms of professional aspirations has been one of the most difficult things for me to figure out over the past few years. It's been a journey that's 4 to 5 years in the making, and while I'm still honing it down, I recently gained a lot of clarity in terms of what sort of path I do want to take in life. I was raised like a lot of people where the classic path in life is to go to school and then go to college, and then you get the job of your dreams for whatever you went to college for. And so I did that, became a physical therapist, started working in that role, and realized fairly quickly that that's not for me. Life is very unfulfilling, and I just don't want to do that from 8 to 5 for 40 some years until I get to retirement age of 65. So that's when I started to really have a heart-to-heart with myself on what is it that I actually want to do in life in order to sustain a living for myself. And so over the past few years, and especially most recently the past few months, I've definitely learned some things that have helped me along that path. And so if you're in a similar boat where you're thinking you have no idea what you want to do in life, and you feel lost, having this existential crisis, hopefully some of the things that I talk about in this video will be helpful to you. So let's dive in. The first thing that I found really helpful is asking myself the right questions, because a lot of times I ask myself, what should I do? What should I do to get out of my current job as a physical therapist? And the problem with that is when you ask, what should I do? You're seeking advice from others. And while advice in and of itself is not a bad thing, when you get advice from others, you are hearing a viewpoint that from them that is based off of personal experience. You're hearing something that has worked for them. And so while that advice can work for you, it doesn't mean that it is the best advice for you. And so I find that a better question is to ask yourself, what is it that you want to do? And so this is something that I have been asking myself more recently. To give some background, I've been trying to get into the UX industry for the past year and a half. This has been my journey to get out of my job as a physical therapist. And so in this whole transition, I was constantly seeking advice as what should I do to get a job? What field or what niche should I get into in terms of UX design? And I was just trying to seek all the advice that I possibly could, which again, isn't bad, but I wasn't really formulating anything on my own. And I wasn't asking myself, what is it that I want to do? Because there's a lot of different branches that you can take in UX design, just like there are with a lot of other fields. I could go the get a job route. I could work in a particular niche. I could do freelance. There's a lot of different paths that I could take. And I was neglecting the most important question to ask myself, which is, what is it that I want to do? And not necessarily what is the normal path that people take to get into this industry. And so that's the first thing that I would ask yourself, because I think it's really important, because no matter what kind of field that you want to get into, whether it's, programming or design, sales, marketing, music, it doesn't really matter. There's going to be a lot of people saying what works for them, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work for you. Or if it does work for you, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's what you actually want. And so once I started asking myself that, I really started to figure out that, hey, I want to do freelance. I don't actually want a job. And so when I was applying for jobs and through for UX roles, I was submitting tons and tons of applications. But on the inside, I knew that something was wrong and something felt off, but I couldn't really pinpoint what it was. And it wasn't until somewhat recently that I kind of realized that I'm basically I'm putting in this work towards something that I don't even really want. It's just I'm putting in work towards something that I feel like other people have told me to do. And so that's why I now am switching to more of the freelance route. So to give sort of a framework on how to do this effectively, if you are totally lost when it comes to figuring out what path you want to take in life, one thing that has helped me out is to figure out what are the values that you would want out of a given career and really detailing those. So for example, I have 3 values that I have for making a living for myself. And the first one is being able to work from anywhere. I want to be able to work remotely. And so that's number 1. Number 2 is I want to be able to work for myself. I don't want to be an employee somewhere. I want to be able to work for myself, set my own schedule, that sort of a thing. And then the last thing is I want to get paid to do creative work. I like creativity, as do a lot of people. And so that's sort of why I navigated towards UX design in the first place, is it is a way to exercise a form of creativity, but also provide value to the marketplace. And that's really the thing that you have to do is even though I strongly encourage you to ask yourself what you want to do to make a living for yourself, the one caveat is that it has to provide value to the marketplace. Because as much as I love to sit on my couch, drink a Manhattan, and listen to some house music, that's probably not a great way to make a living, because I'm certainly not going to contribute anything to society for that by doing that. And obviously that wouldn't be a great thing for my health if I did that every day. So whatever it is that you want to do, you should ask yourself, is this something that the market would want? Is this something that there is a need for whatever service or product that I want to get into? And if you ask yourself that and you can confidently say, yes, this is something the market needs. So in my case, I'm specifically working on Webflow design, and there's definitely a market for that. So if you can answer yourself yes for whatever it is that you want to do, then that is sort of a good compass point to figure out that you should probably take that path. The other thing that is really important to know, and this is something that I sort of knew at surface level, but I didn't take it to heart, is that any path that you take is going to be hard. While any path you take is the right path, also know that any path that you take is also going to be a difficult path. There is no easy path to success, and especially in terms of like career and professional aspirations. And so I didn't really understand the depth of that until I realized that I was getting into this rut of perpetually quitting things that I started. Like when I first realized that physical therapy, working in a job, wasn't right for me, I initially was like, okay, well, I'll start my own practice as a physical therapist. And so I did that, tried that for 6 months, and then I quit. And then later on, I decided to double down on music production. Music production is my passion. And so I was like, oh, I'll double down on music production, get really good at that, and start offering my skills for that. And then I did that for probably a year, and then I quit that. And then with UX design, I've been working on that for a year and a half. And within that window of time, I sort of have been real wish-washy with like what avenue I want to take with UX design. So at first I was gung-ho on trying to get a job, and then I sort of quit that to try freelance, and then I quit that to go back to finding a job. And so what I've come to realize is it doesn't matter what path I take. Every path is going to be difficult. Every path is going to have roadblocks, and there's no path that exists that is just all glamour and no obstacles. Like that does not exist. And so I think knowing that going into it is just really, really, really fundamental to know, because no matter what journey you take in life, you're going to want to quit. If it is a worthwhile pursuit that you are engaging in, there is going to be a point where you want to quit. And there's a really neat framework for this that really just opened my eyes to this whole thing and made me understand this on a totally different level. So I learned this from Alex Hormozy, but there is this thing called the emotional cycle of change, which goes over the stages that people go through as they make a decision to embark on a particular journey in life. And so basically, there's 5 stages to this framework. And the first one is uninformed optimism. So uninformed optimism is basically when you stumble upon a new opportunity and it seems amazing. Like I remember when I first stumbled upon UX design and I was like, oh my God, this is the perfect career for me. I can't imagine why this would ever be a bad choice for me. And just everything seems amazing. Like you've stumbled upon a gold mine. And so you don't really see the downsides in this stage of the framework. Well, once you kind of start learning whatever skill it is that you're wanting to learn and have that become your craft, you then enter the second stage, which is informed pessimism. So at this stage, you start to realize, okay, this is kind of hard. Like there's a lot of moving pieces here, and there's a lot of things that maybe I didn't anticipate when I first started this. And so for me, this is when I realized, oh wow, like getting a job in the UX industry is actually way harder than I thought. Because even though there's a lot of videos on YouTube saying that people got into the industry in 3-4 months, this is actually quite a lot of work. And learning all of the skills required for UX design actually is very involved. And this isn't just pertaining to UX design. It's any sort of field that you want to get into, any sort of skill that you want to learn that is worthwhile to the marketplace, you're going to have this exact same feeling of informed pessimism. Well, then comes the third stage. And this is where most people quit. And this is called the valley of despair. So this is where things just look fucking hopeless. Everything looks bleak. You feel like you're not making progress, and you sort of lose any sort of optimism and hope for whatever goal that you have actually coming to fruition. And this is something that happened to me, I would say probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I was applying for jobs in UX design, and I'm just, and this is about 1.5 years into it. And I'm thinking to myself, why am I doing this? Like, I don't even see the point in doing this anymore. Like there was such a huge piece of me that wanted to quit because I didn't see any upside to working on UX design anymore. And so it's at that moment where I would typically quit, because that's where I quit for every other past thing that I did. When I would reach that valley of despair when I came to starting a PT business, when I tried to pursue music production as a career, I reached that valley of a despair where it just looks hopeless, and that's where I quit. And that's where a lot of people quit. And that's why not everyone can become successful in their chosen field, because it takes an incredible amount of willpower to overcome that. And frankly, I'm in that right now. I'm in the valley of despair. And so I can say, as someone that's in that pit, the only way that I can move forward is to just keep going. I have to keep going, even though that there's so many thoughts in my head telling me to quit, try something else, pivot. Maybe this isn't the right path for me. I have to know that this is the path, and I have to know that as I keep moving forward, things will get better, because at some point, and you will too if you keep with it, I will reach the stage number 4, which is informed optimism. So at this stage, which I look forward to getting to, is basically a stage where you know your shit, basically. You know whatever craft it is that you're pursuing, whether that's UX design or really any other craft that you want to pursue to make money from. This is where you actually start to become skilled at it. So maybe you start to get your first client, maybe you land that first job, and you start to just feel confident with your choice, and you realize, oh, okay, maybe I can actually do this. And so that's really what stage 4 is all about, is gaining that confidence. And then from there, you get up to the 5th stage, which is success. You're actually successful at the said thing. But the bridge from stage 3, the valley of despair, to stage 4, the informed optimism, is such a huge gap to overcome. And frankly, I would love to be able to speak from experience saying that I have overcome that, but I have not. So I am still in this. But just know that whatever path you take, you are going to experience this this emotional cycle of change. And I think the more aware that you are of that, the more prepared you can be, because I think that if you are not prepared for that valley of despair stage, you will quit. Because if you're anything like me, that's what happened to me. I would reach that stage where everything seemed hopeless, and then I started having all these false beliefs of, oh, I picked the wrong career, I picked the wrong path. No, I didn't. I didn't pick the wrong path. I just didn't see through it long enough to actually get to the success that I wanted. And so I am trying my damnedest to just stay the course with what I've been working on lately, which has been Webflow development. So I hope this video resonated with you in some way, and hopefully you learned a thing or two. I know for me, it was so freeing to know that any path is the right path. And it's really the case. You could want to do copywriting, design, marketing, sales, music, drop shipping. It doesn't matter. As long as whatever you pick contributes value to the marketplace, you can truly pick whatever path you want, and any path can be the right path. You just have to pick the path where you feel like you can stick to it enough to overcome the obstacles that get in your way. And so for me, I feel like I have found that with Webflow design and development. But for you, it may take some trial and error to figure out what that might be. The important thing is to be able to pivot fast out of that if you realize that it truly isn't for you. And related to that, ask yourself, are you wanting to pivot out because it's hard, or because you really just don't find it fulfilling? Because that is a very, very important thing to distinguish. Because if you're pivoting out because it's hard, then I would urge you to just stick with it. But if it truly is something that is unfulfilling to you, then that is a totally valid reason to pivot out of it. And again, I think a really good way to figure out if something is right for you is to have a list of values that you operate off of that define what you would like your ideal career and professional life to look like. So this is certainly an evolving journey for me, but again, I just wanted to come on and just share just some of the things that I've learned with this whole journey, because it has been something that I have been wrestling around with for the past few years. So if you found this to be helpful, then definitely hit the subscribe button. It helps me out more than you know, and just lets me know if these videos are resonating with you. And until next time, I will see you in the next video. Take care.